Do you want to get work done faster and free up your time with AI? You knew I'd have an AI speaker, right? We got to have an AI speaker every time. With over 25 years in instructional design and educational technology, Dr. Samuel Helms guides teams and organizations to responsibly harness generative AI. As a LinkedIn top voice in educational technology, he's an advocate for the ethical applications of AI. Outside of his work, Samuel enjoys mixed martial arts, exploring the Colorado outdoors, and has a soft spot for punk rock. Here to introduce us to the AI Frankenstein from Fort Collins, Colorado, please help me welcome Dr. Samuel Helms. Woohoo!
Thank you so much, Marty. That's a great introduction. I love the little AI introductions when they bring in the punk rock thing. I just had to leave that in there. So welcome everyone. I had to, as Marty was saying, we got to have something on AI, the new sort of hot topic in the world right now. So in this, I wanted to show you something called what I'm calling AI Frankenstein. We're going to start comparing AI to some of our classic horror monsters here, but we'll see, because we'll see how this goes. And that question that we start with, we all know, we got kind of a sense like, okay, we should start using AI. It's going to really speed things up. We can use it to increase our productivity, get results done faster. Oh my gosh, I can write books. I can write social media posts. I can do all this stuff. But how do we do that responsibly? How do we rely on what it's producing, right? So this is what I wanted to get into today. So if Gamma decides to go to the next slide here, there we go. So in the chat real quick, just type in what comes to mind when you see that word. When you see that word Frankenstein, what do you start thinking of? Thanks, Steve. I just saw your little punk rock monster, right? A freak. I like that. Alter ego. That's actually alter ego is a good one. Bad. Exactly. Some sort of actually, Steve, I saw you gave away the answer there, but yeah, a lot of times what comes to mind when we see the word Frankenstein is sort of this classic Hollywood image of a, one of our classic monsters, right? So in this case, Frankenstein, it's like it's put together from all these different people, right? Hence all the stitches and all this kind of stuff, and then brought to life with electricity, which are those things in the neck. Little fun fact here: I was an English major when I was an undergraduate. This was what Mary Shelley's Frankenstein was one of my favorite novels. And a little fun fact is that the name Frankenstein refers to the doctor. It does not refer to the monster. Frankenstein's monster never actually had a name, and that was a big sort of piece in the novel as it kept coming up. But I find that interesting, and I find that to be a very apropos analogy for our use of AI. A lot of us are focused on AI as the monster, right? As the Terminator, as this is going to come get us. My focus is, well, wait a second. How are we, as the human that is creating this stuff, how are we using this? And one of the things I like about this quote, this is a quote from the book, Dr. Frankenstein, just using the humor from Young Frankenstein here, but Dr. Frankenstein like dives into the work and is all excited about it. And it's like, oh my gosh, I could do all this stuff with it, right? It's like, this is going to be so cool. This is what's going to happen. I'm going to do this. And then as he's done, so what happens when he's done? The beauty of the dream vanished and the breathless horror and disgust filled my heart. Now it's a little bit over the top when we're talking about something like ChatGPT perhaps, but there's this sense of, if I don't pay attention to what I'm doing in the moment, if I'm not paying attention to how I'm using AI, how am I interacting with it, how am I putting it together from these different pieces, it can get very quickly out of control. And that's sort of what I wanted to bring up here, is this sort of fear that we have around this of, and this is also from the Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. This is Frankenstein's monster talking back to Dr. Frankenstein. You are my creator, but I am your master, obey. And this is sort of what I think a lot of us are kind of afraid of when it comes to AI. It's like, is ChatGPT, and when you're asking it to write your social media post for the week, it turns around and gives you something like this in return. Like, it'd be a little unnerving, right? So what if we take responsibility for it? What I liked about that quote is from Dr. Frankenstein. He's rushing into it and is doing all this stuff and is really excited about it, but then loses track of it. It's like, it reminds me of the quote from Yoda from Star Wars, where he's like, always our mind is on the future, never where we are, what we are doing. And I love that, because that's sort of what I advocate for here is we create the monster if we're not paying attention to what we're doing in a moment. And this is Ideogram's idea of Yoda versus Frankenstein's monster. And apparently, according to its explanation, Yoda's trying to use the Force. It looks like he's about to get his butt kicked, though, just to be fair. But the idea here is that Yoda was supposed to be a little bit more in the dominating stance, so to speak. So how do we do this? Okay, so how do we do this? How do we apply it? I'm a very practical person. When it comes to educational technology and my experience with it, I always come back to, okay, what is the actual experience for the end user? Like, how are we, as the individual using the technology, taking on the responsibility for it? How do we use it in a way that is magnifying our skills rather than taking away from them, for example? Well, that's a good question. Let me introduce you to what I'm calling just 3 anchors of AI ethics. So, just briefly, it's authenticity over automation. We get into the habit of thinking AI is just going to do work for us. I don't want to discourage that a little bit. I'm just like, actually, no, it's going to help you, but you're going to maintain your authenticity while using it. Maintain your authority. You're also going to maintain your authority over the AI. You're not going to. The analogy I like to use is you're the captain of your ship, right? You are going to steer the direction that this is going. You don't want it to do it for you because who knows what you might crash into. Transparency and accountability. I think a lot of times there's a fear now, which makes sense with a lot of new technology, to be fair. When it first comes out, a lot of people are very afraid, and usually the response is, oh my gosh, that's cheating. It's like, well, no, let's be transparent and accountable about how we're using it. So just to get into this a little bit, authenticity over automation. What do I mean by that? It should really enhance creativity. It should not replace it. And it's one of those things where, the question gets asked, it's like, will AI take away my creativity? Yeah. Yeah, it will. If you overuse it, yeah, it will. If you use it to take away, deliberately give your creativity over to the AI and have it do it for you, yes, your level of creativity will go down. Just like my ability to spell had dramatically decreased as I started relying on spell check automations. And then I just sort of rolled with it because I'm like, whatever, I write faster if I'm not worried about the spelling. But now it's all voice to text anyway, so it's not even a thing. But with that in mind, so it will kind of diminish that skill. So how do we sort of use this to enhance? Well, start with your own original content. Take some notes on your phone. The fact that I'm doing that as a phone shows my age, doesn't it? But take some notes on your phone, some voice memos, translate them into text, throw them into the AI, and give it something to start with. Give it something to start with. Now it knows who you are. Now it knows what you're going. And you can say, yeah, that's my idea. Like AI Frankenstein was my idea. That was not something that the AI suggested. Original contributions. Throw something in there. Don't just say yes, proceed, go, next step, or something like that. Give it something to work with instead of saying just yes. Yeah, it's a great start. Thank you. I made some notes for revisions. Or I really like what you did here, right? Your own voice. This is particularly apropos if you're doing any sort of writing, whether it's social media or books or anything like that. Give it a sample of your own writing and directly tell the AI, I want you to look at my writing and use that style going forward. That way it will not sound so generic. And then, of course, maintain your authority. Maintain your authority over that AI. You are in control of it, not it over you. This is where we get into the Terminator kind of thing, right? Where it starts to like separate away. So keep. Sometimes it requires telling it multiple times. This one in particular, the example I have there, please write professionally and do not use any friggin' emojis in the writing. I'll often have to tell ChatGPT that multiple times because it just really wants to throw emojis in every single sentence, which drives me nuts. So I'm maintaining control of that. I'm telling it, no. I'm not going to default to what you want to do. I want you to do this. Even if it's not wrong, even if it's wrong, even if it's not optimized, whatever. It's like, it's still my authenticity and your authority, so to speak. And then finally, transparency and accountability. Be upfront about AI use. This is created by this presentation I use this is all AI in a sense. Like I created it all using AI. I wrote the script using ChatGPT, starting from my own notes. Of course, I wrote out all my ideas on a phone while I was taking voice notes. Used that to write the script. That was a long conversational thread that I went through back and forth on the script. Used Ideogram to come up with a lot of the images, and then finally Gamma to put together the presentation really quickly. and incite them, like tell people you're using it, ask them to review it. So what kind of creator are you going to be? What kind of creator are you going to be? On the left here, we have the young Dr. Frankenstein, which is sort of silly and full of dreams and excited about life. And then on the right, I took a description of the Frankenstein's monster and gave it to ideogram right out of the novel, and gave it to ideogram, and this is what it created, which is pretty good. Or are we going to train a monster in our wake, so to speak? Are we going to how do we want to do that? And I really believe that the decision is up to us. It is not up to the AI. It is up to us. And that's what I advocate for. And thank you for listening.